Well, this is a depressing way to start the film. This is supposed to be a comedy, by the way. This is 2017's 68 Kill, and I promise that it's a comedy. This is not the pace for the entire film. Spoiler alert, while I might be giving you my opinion on the film, that's no substitute for watching it yourself. Links to the film are in the description. After the fly dies, we cut to Chip and Liza, who are lying in bed together. Once Liza wakes up, she notices that Chip is just lying there looking at her, and she breaks the moment entirely. They get up and we see that they had a pretty good night the night before. Chip expresses that he doesn't like her having a sugar daddy, but she assures him that he's just a little wiener with a big bank account. Pretty much the opposite of him. When he goes back to look in the fridge, all he finds is beer, but he gets interrupted when Clint comes to the door to pick him up for work. While they work, Clint talks to him about all the rumors he's heard about Liza. I can't really blame him. When your coworker starts dating an ex-stripper that you've already seen in action, it's a little hard to keep your mouth shut about it. Especially when your buddy tells you stories about how the girl pulled a knife on you mid-lap dance because he didn't tip her enough. She knows what she's worth. When Chip gets back to his trailer, he finds a nice surprise waiting for him. I know I said nice surprise, but to each their own. This might be your thing, I don't know. Chip tries to ask her questions, but she turns this into her own little fantasy. After doing the nasty, they lie in bed, and Chip asks her why she has the guns again. It's now that Liza tells him that they're going to use the guns to solve all their problems. She begins to explain that she went to go see her sugar daddy earlier that day, but she spotted the safe that he keeps all of the money in. She finds out that there's $68,000 in this safe, and she plans on robbing him that night and escaping from the crappy life her and Chip are stuck in now. After some coaxing, Chip falls in line, and he starts to ask what her plan is. Liza swears that they should be able to sneak in without even waking anyone up, but the guns are just an insurance. It's smart to have a backup plan or an insurance policy, but when you're pretty sure that you're going to need an insurance policy, that's when you know you've got a bona fide crazy person as a partner. The two of them make their way into the house, and everything seems to go as planned until they find out that the sugar daddy is still awake. He's sitting in his sitting room, and he's pleasuring himself to the video he seemed to have recorded of him and Liza earlier. Well, Liza has a solution for this hiccup. See? Bona fide crazy. She didn't even try to sneak by or knock him out. Her first go-to was to slit his throat immediately. I guess you really don't have to worry about him at that point, but still. The man's wife comes downstairs and finds them, and she even manages to almost kill Chip. Leave it to Liza to stab her in the temple, so now there's no reason to sneak around anymore. Liza starts drinking from the bar, and Chip starts to have a little nervous breakdown. When Liza gets into the safe, she looks like the murder of the two people was well worth $68,000, but their celebration is cut short when they hear the door open. When Chip goes to check out who came in, he runs into Violet, who immediately runs away. He grabs her and tries to convince her that they aren't going to hurt her. But Liza has other plans. They throw Violet into the trunk, and they make their way down the road. I'm sorry, before they set out, she decides to have him do his thing with her in the back seat. She's turned on from the whole thing, and poor Chip almost looks like he's about to cry the entire time. After driving for a while, they go to meet Liza's brother Dwayne. Liza plans on selling Violet to Dwayne, and Chip finds out that it isn't the first time she's done this. She definitely thinks Violet will be worth way more money than the last one though. After waiting in the car for more than half an hour, Chip heads in to find Dwayne and Liza watching a movie. Chip pulls her aside to ask her why she's been making him wait, and he notices vials of body parts that Liza tells him are from the last girl she sold to him. How did he manage to date this girl for 6 months, and he never found out any of her dirty secrets? That's mind-blowing. After showing some weakness, Chip tries to volunteer to get the girl out of the trunk, but Liza doesn't trust him to follow through with the plan. Chip tries to explain that he doesn't like this side of Liza, and she doesn't take that too well.
Are you breaking up with me?
No.
Yeah, I'd be making sure she knows that that's not where I'm headed with that comment. I feel like she'd sell him to her brother and watch him carve him up too. This is not one of those women you mess around with. Get away! Liza goes on to explain that everything she's done that night was to make sure they could have a better life. As she goes to open the trunk, he accidentally hits her in the back of the head, and she takes this as his way of breaking up with her. As a result, she ends up passing out on the street next to him, and when Dwayne comes rushing out to get him, Chip shoots and kills him. Chip quickly hops into the car and drives off, but Liza's close on his heels in a matter of minutes. After a high-speed chase through some residential roads, the chase ends with Liza stalling in a yard, and Chip thinks that he's home free. Just as he goes to get on the interstate, she shows up again and tells him to pull over while pointing a gun at him. Are you serious? At this point, she's more relentless than the damn Terminator. Nothing seems to be able to keep her down. After they pull over, Chip approaches Liza and she tells him to hold her. She tells him that Dwayne's actually okay, but he isn't too happy that he shot him. That's reasonable. I wouldn't be too happy that someone just shot me either. She doesn't completely forgive him, but she's had a fun time. She tells Chip that the only way he's going to get off the hook is by killing Violet and dumping the body. Then she passes out on the road again. Chip leaves her there and continues driving the getaway car until he finds a safe space to talk to Violet. He pulls over and promises Violet that he doesn't want to hurt her before he opens the trunk. As he's mesmerized by her body, she takes this moment to disarm him, and he swears that none of what's happened is because of him. Chip has a moral conundrum where he can't leave her and he can't kill her. So after he tells her about the money, Violet decides to just stick with Chip. I'm not entirely sure where this movie's headed, but this is definitely a good jump from The Fly Drowning in Honey. I didn't know this was a musical on top of murder comedy. A little further down the road, the police pull him over, and Violet finds ways to seduce the officer before telling him that she's going to be letting Chip do nasty things if they can get home. Sure enough, the officer asks Chip out of the car, and he wishes him good luck. And with that, they're on their way. Further down the road, Chip comes to a little corner store where he tries to get some gas. When he realizes that he doesn't have any cash in his wallet, he ends up pulling out the envelope of $68K, and the cashier tries to blackmail him for some of it. Sure enough, she succeeds, but Violet comes in to threaten her out of it. Okay, so who the hell would just pull out an envelope of thousands of dollars like that? You might as well have a big neon sign hanging over your head saying you're the biggest fool in the land. On the other hand, I'm not entirely sure that Violet's an improvement of Liza. She seems just as crazy, if not worse. Maybe it's time to cut your losses and just go out on your own. Soon, they come to a cheap little motel, and they take a second to decompress before Violet asks him to take his clothes off and get into bed with her. Chip wastes no time in doing so, and she makes it known that she definitely wants to do it. Before that, though, she has something she wants to get off her chest. She tells Chip that she worked for the sugar daddy and his wife doing sex stuff, and she explains that she didn't do it for pleasure. She explains that she was put into a bad situation by them, pressuring her by firing her from her job, so she had no other options for income than joining them in the bedroom. Chip assures her that he doesn't look down on her, and she's happier than she's been in a long time. This was a nice little freeing moment, and the money and gun are gone in the morning. He wakes up and tries to call out for Violet, but she's gone. Is he really surprised? Did that little bit really sell him on Violet? After a nice little breakdown, he notices a spot of blood on the tub, and when he pulls back the curtain, he finds Violet dead in the tub. He assumes the obvious of Liza being the one that broke in and did it, so he takes a towel to cover up and goes to the front office to make a phone call. The office manager explains that there was a huge party going on in his room the night before, and Chip explains that he was probably roofied by Liza. After making a phone call to Liza, it becomes painfully clear that she isn't the one that did it, since she just got out of a night in the hospital. Then the office manager mentions one girl in particular.
What she looked like?
G said she looked like a dead girl.
You mean to tell me that the gas station attendant tracked him down, killed Violet, and stole all of his things? She might be the craziest of them all. Liza isn't looking too bad now. Chip immediately knows who he's talking about, and he knocks out the manager so he can take his car. He even takes the time to explain to the manager what's going on when he wakes up. He grabs some clothes from the lost and found and makes his way to the car with a golf club. Chip makes his way back to the gas station where he finds a new woman attending the station. She tells him that her name's Monica, and she'll tell him where she is if he does some crazy stuff in the back room with her. Of course, Chip does it, and he's off to find Monica. For someone that isn't built to murder, he sure does handle everything else really well. He's gotta be the most resourceful coward I've ever seen in a story. He ends up spotting the car outside a trailer, and he heads straight to the front door where a redneck man pops out with a gun. Soon, the blonde from the gas station rolls up on a bicycle, and it becomes clear that she set him up. Soon, Monica comes out of the back, and she tries to tell Chip that coming to find her was the one dumb decision he could have made. Without hesitation, Chip disarms Monica and holds everyone hostage for maybe 20 seconds. Then, when a little boy comes through the front door and surprises Chip, the blonde woman takes his golf club and knocks Chip out. I was about to give him credit for handling all that. He sucker punched her and snatched that gun so quickly that it actually surprised me. He should have barged straight past that kid. You don't hesitate when you put your back to a bunch of druggies. I'm not just calling them druggies either. When Chip comes to, Monica comes inside with a bag full of pills. It's a proven fact. Monica takes the time to explain how he was supposed to take the blame for everything, but him leaving the hotel kind of messed that up. They decide to continue torturing Chip while getting high and enjoying the night. Literally the next minute is filled with a drugged up torture montage. Then Chip goes into a dream where he talks to Violet, and he was basically already in love with her. Poor Chip. How did he survive with Liza for so long? Where is Liza anyways? When he comes to, Chip wakes up to find Liza standing over him. Monica ends up coming out to the main room, and Liza tries to explain that they should leave them alone. Needless to say, they don't listen, and Liza takes matters into her own hands. Liza refuses to stand down, and within seconds, Sworn bursts through the front door and shoots the man's arm off before shooting him in his private region. On top of that, Dwayne ends up chopping 2 more people to death. Dwayne is by far my favorite character now. When Liza tells Dwayne to do what he's going to do with the last 2 women, he straight up tells her that he needs privacy. Poor dude knows what he needs, and he's not afraid to do what needs to be done. Best character. Liza then asks Chip what happened to Violet, and he tells her that she's dead. When she hears the tone of voice he uses, she can't believe how he was able to fall for someone after 1 night away from her. Liza tries to go back to the idea of them being together, and Chip seems to be into the idea at first. When Liza says that she loves Chip, he's immediately starstruck, and he loves that she's finally opening up to him. When Liza explains that her options are to discipline him or kill him, Chip tries to explain that there's another option. As he gets up and hobbles out of the trailer to leave her, Liza tries to come up with reasons for why he can't leave. She tells him that she'll have to kill him if he takes 1 more step away from her. And with that, Chip takes his gun and shoots her in the neck. Chip starts to walk away, but he decides to go back in and finish the job. He goes back to the bedroom where he shoots Dwayne before he gets to Monica. Just as Monica thanks Chip for saving her, he shoots her for killing Violet. Chip gathers the money, wipes his prints from all of the weapons, and he tries to set up the trailer so it looks like Liza and Dwayne played a much bigger part in everything. Before he leaves, he sets the trailer on fire and says goodbye to all the trauma of the last few days. Chip couldn't look any smoother as he passes the police that are headed to the trailer, and he knows it. He looks down at all the money and almost stops for another woman he sees stranded on the side of the road. But I think he's finally learned his lesson. This man slams his foot on the accelerator and leaves her stranded. Think he's done chasing women for a while. This was such a fun movie. A very grimy and visceral gory comedy, but that's such a nice change of pace compared to the rom-coms that litter the box office nowadays. Check it out. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more like this one. Comment what you think I should watch next, and I'll see you in the next video.